So today is the 24th of April, and we are in the home and studio of Luna. Now, Luna is the daughter of a friend of mine that I've known since I was 13, and we'll have a segment of discussion with Luna's parents here in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to take some time and talk with Luna because she is in the midst of a creative explosion, and I wanted to talk to her about her work and what she finds through creativity, through expression, and some of her influences and the things that she wants to do. So, say hi, Luna.
Hi.
So, just got a couple of questions here, and I can mix these around. So, just feel free to talk. And don't feel like you have to keep your answers to it like a short. They can, if you want to talk about something and it feels related to you, but it isn't directly like as a result of the question, feel free to just answer however you want. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, what was your first? What was the first thing you remembered? Painting, creating, drawing. The first one you remember.
That would actually be kind of hard, but altogether it would probably be when we moved into this house. The people there left an easel, and my mom would put up big pieces of paper, and I'd draw on it with crayons.
Okay. How old were you about that time?
I was about 2 or 3.
Do you still have any of those?
Yes.
Does Mom still have those? They're around here somewhere?
There is one on my dad's door.
Okay. So that was kind of the beginning for you, and it doesn't look like you stopped.
No.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit about the journey from then to now? Like, because you're 9 years old?
10.
10. Okay, so you're 10 years old. That means that you've been creating for 8 years. Now, for a lot of people, I just met a lady who, she's in her 60s, and she only started painting 15 years ago. So you have almost as much time painting as she does. And that gives you an opportunity to look back and say, I like this. I really enjoyed that. There were some frustrations here doing this. What are some of the mediums that you like? What are some things that you found frustrating? Just, can you talk to me about looking back over some of the work you've done and some of the things you like?
Well, I would have to say for the mediums, my favorite mediums right now are probably my watercolors, my alcohol markers that I just got this Christmas, and my acrylics.
Okay, so acrylic painting. Like acrylic,
yeah.
Okay. And this is an example of acrylic.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a fairly recent one. This is one you're just completing now?
I completed that last summer.
Oh, last summer. Okay. Now, I paint too. I paint with oil, and I love acrylic. I've just never really worked with acrylic. How did you get that shiny finish on that?
That was me. I watch a lot of painting YouTube videos.
Oh, okay.
And they always put finishes on their works, and
okay.
I don't actually have a real finisher. That was actually some kind of Mod Podge I put on my paintings.
So I'm not familiar with the term Mod Podge. What's that? Is that just a couple different things you mix together?
This is Mod Podge. It's it's what you put on collages and stuff like that.
Okay.
So not exactly to cure things,
but to kind of seal it so they don't fall off. And you just you use that over top of this. Okay. What were some of the things that influenced you? Do you have any specific experiences, remember going to a gallery or on a trip somewhere that you saw something that was wow, I like what they did and I want to see if I can do that myself?
Well, I watch, so again with the YouTube videos, there's this one art YouTuber that I really, really love, and that I like to do, try to figure out things that I kind of figure out, because we sometimes have like the same kind of style and things.
Okay.
So I like to like work with what she has, like the different mediums she uses, and also I like to look at her ideas and think what I can do with that.
Now, when you say she, is this a YouTube personality? How old is this YouTube personality?
She is, I think, 26.
Okay.
So even though she's older, I think I really like her work.
Okay. What are some of the things that you find, like, a lot of times artists will talk about feeling satisfied or feeling, like fulfilled, or like what are some of the experiences that you get when you actually create a piece and when you look back and you say, that turned out kind of the way I wanted it to turn out, or that turned out better than I thought. Can you talk to me about that experience?
I would have to say, like, sometimes my mom has, like, books that I can look at for inspiration and stuff.
Okay.
So if I look at that and I, like, figure out what I want to do and I actually do it pretty well, then I'm like, okay, well, I look like I could be in the book. So it's like I've accomplished something, so I think it looks really good.
That's fantastic. Now, your mom shared a bunch of your stuff with me, and I'm looking around, and one of the things that I really like about your work is you express a very wide variety of, I would say, emotion or feeling, and a lot of the pieces are funny, and some of the pieces are just really pretty and beautiful, just to be beautiful. And then some pieces, your planet with the ring over here. It looks like you're going after like a feeling or a mood.
I would have to say there are some paintings that I do kind of express emotion in, but some I do just look at, I'm trying to do something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be an example of one that you're trying to accomplish something and one that you're trying to express?
I think for accomplish, it would be a rose picture that I painted.
The one right
there.
Here.
Yeah, that one I looked in a book, and it was like a how-to book, and I looked at it, and I did it, and I think it turned out really good, and I was really proud of myself. One that I would say would probably be expressing myself. I don't have it right here, but it's a picture of a hand grabbing, like kind of falling.
Okay.
And I would say that is what I would call an emotion.
Wow. I don't know if I've seen that one. Do you have that around?
No. I looked for it and I looked for it.
Oh, no.
No. Yes.
Oh. Well, if you find it, send it to me before I make the video, and I'll put it... Because I've got a bunch of these images, and I'll just splice them in the video. That way people can see the work when we talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to say I really love the rose painting. It's watercolor is very difficult. I don't do well with watercolor, and I thought you captured the delicacy and intricacy of the flower extremely well. So that was a good one. The other one that I really now there are a lot that I like, but the one that I really like is there's a small little abstract that you did. It looks like it's an acrylic. It has a bunch of oranges and pinks and purples on it.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I think it's on the other side of this wall.
Yeah, it is.
Can I go get it?
Sure.
Okay. I want to take a closer look at that. So I saw your mom has a picture of both of these up on her Facebook feed.
Yeah.
And I saw this one, and I really like this one. So what was the what made you do this one?
Well,
And if you don't have an answer, that's fine. A lot of times people don't.
I would say it was probably because my mom was experimenting with painting, and I thought, okay, I'll paint something, and she had some new paints, so I wanted to test them out, and I wanted to do an abstract one, but I wanted to have details. So this is probably my favorite part right here.
Well, I think the whole thing is successful. I mean, I can look at it. I see what you're saying about this, but I also really love that soft pink in there and how it contrasts against the deeper reds. I mean, was this all done with a brush? Did you have multiple brushes when you used that?
I'm guessing I probably did, because that's like what I usually have, multiple brushes going.
Okay. And this again is acrylic.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I didn't see when I saw the photograph, and this adds another dimension to it for me. I didn't see the sparkle. Was that something you put on after everything was dry?
Yeah. Well, no. I did that when it was wet, and
Okay.
I just like put sparkles all over it.
Well, that's one of my favorite pieces. I think you showed me last year when last summer, you showed me another one that was an abstract, and it was just like, wow. And it was again in that same vein of contrasting hues between cools and very warms. And I don't know that I have seen it when I've been here today, but again, that was the thing that for me, I love color, so I found I was attracted to those. And then, is this hummingbird one that you just recently did?
I just did this a couple days ago.
Okay.
And I really like this watercolor that I did. Again, it was a how-to on a book, but I added like some of my own details. And I actually, even though I said watercolor, I added my Posca paint pens that are acrylics to make the dots and in the highlights.
Okay. Very good. I think I lost my place in my book. Now, do you have other artists that have been inspirational to you? I mean, you live in a house that's just has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to visual information, and a lot of books. And that's one of the key elements to a well-developed mind. So, what are some of the influences? What are some of the artistic things that have made you look at art and say, "Wow, that's cool"?
I would have to say there's these two books. They're from they have a bunch of different artists in them, but I like to flip through them, and then sometimes I like to make spins on them.
Okay.
But I like to look through that.
Well, that's interesting that you say spin on that, because when I was preparing for this conversation, looking through a lot of your work that your mom has on her Facebook feed, there's a painting of a lady with a red hat.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What made you decide to do that? Because there's something interesting about that. I've been doing this stuff too for a while, and I know that there are times when I get really kind of frustrated with something. You ever find that?
Yeah.
How do you get beyond that? Because everyone has their own way.
I find something else to paint.
So what you do is you put it down and you do something else for a while.
Yeah, I would probably put it down and probably keep it not out in the open. Shut it away. Doesn't belong to live anymore.
Have there been permanent rejections? Things that you've said, you're just like...
Yeah. There are some that just have to live in the corner for the rest of their lives.
I love it. No, that's great. I mean, that's truly the stuff that the world sees is a very small percentage of what actually gets made. There are a lot of things people are like. I go back to a lot of the things that I did, and I look at that and go, there was a small spark of something good, but the rest of it didn't work out. Not with the current situation with COVID, but think back to time before COVID, school. How is school for you? In general.
In general.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let me be a little more specific. Are there other subjects that you find that you're skilled at?
I mean, I like to read, and I like to write, but I don't have the patience for it. Nor,
Did you say write?
yeah, I sometimes like to write but then 5 pages long, I'm walk away.
Okay.
And I guess I'm pretty good at math, but that's basically it.
Okay. Oh, I mean that's fine. I didn't know. I didn't. So this is what's leading into the next question. Are there other forms of expression that you want to try, like dance, music, or anything like that?
I do 4 different types of dances.
You do?
Yes, I do. I do ballet, jazz, tap, and young contemporary.
I think I remember the tap. When I was here last, you were talking about tap. So what is young contemporary?
Young contemporary, well, it's usually just contemporary,
Okay.
but my dance school has something for young people, for the kids. It's basically like, what we do in our class is like we just really try a bunch of different things.
Okay.
And really, like, sometimes my dance teacher will just put a song on, and it'll be like wind, or like it will be like spring or like summer, like maybe a season or a feeling, and then she'll like have different objects around the room that we can make a scene with. Sometimes we work together, sometimes we work alone.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking these questions is to see if you have an idea of how some of these other forms of expression help fuel each other, because whether it's painting and then crossover into dance, that's all forms of expression.
One more expression.
Oh, yeah, please, absolutely.
I really like to film make. I was saying before the video that I also have a tripod, and that's because I like to pretend I have my own YouTube channel, even though I'm not allowed to post on YouTube yet. But I like to do that. I even recently have been getting into actually editing my videos. I sometimes film myself like doing art, and then I do like voiceovers after.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really good. So what editing program do you use?
So I have a Microsoft computer, so I just use the editing program that's on there.
Okay. Though, that was one of the things that when I was in grad school I had to really learn how to do, and it was there was no one around to help me, so I had to do it myself, and I fought it the whole way, and now I actually kind of like it, video editing, because it's a big part of what it is that I do, and so it's good to hear that other people are like, yeah, that's something I want to do too, or that's something that I use as another form of expression. So your dance, do you get involved in any musical instruments?
I sometimes try, but it usually doesn't really work out. At school they do have us do recorder, so I know how to play that.
Okay. Now this is the portion of the conversation where I ask if you what do you want to do in the future? What are your ambitions beyond school? When you get done and you have a career, what are some of the things that you want to achieve? Some of the things you want to experience? Some of the things you want to express?
I want to become a famous director.
That's fantastic. I love how absolutely confident you were in that. That is wonderful. I completely applaud that sentiment. So, film, I know this because I come over here a couple times a year, and your family likes to watch movies. This is a good one. What types of movies do you like?
I would say I like comedies.
Okay. So what are some of the comedies that stick in your mind as being ones that are above average? Like funny, super funny.
Super funny. There's I like Elf.
Okay.
Yes, Elf.
Okay.
Let's see here. Funny movies.
Or other ones. The reason I'm asking is because you've got this doll here that reminds me very much of Tim Burton. And now, do you like Tim Burton movies?
Oh, I love Sally.
Yeah, and she's from Nightmare Before Christmas. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She's my favorite Halloween movie, even though my dad says it's a Christmas movie.
It kind of goes both ways, doesn't it? A little bit of Christmas, a little bit of
Halloween.
No? Okay. All right. I've been corrected. You hear that? I've been corrected. It's Halloween. So, a famous film director. Do you want to do comedies?
I would... famous film director, I have yet to find out, because... I do know what they do. They read the scripts. Sometimes they write the scripts. They get the people. They get the cast, and they do things. And they take the cuts and they make the things and make it look perfect. Yeah,
that's and the other thing they do is help the actors find their motivation.
Yeah.
And help them find a feeling that's at the heart of the reason why the actor is doing what they're doing. So that pretty much takes care of what I wanted to ask you, and I really appreciate your time. I do have something right here because I think it's really important to keep feeding creativity. I've got a little gift for you, and it is a book of 100 great artists. And I want you to have that, and you use it in whatever way serves your creativity best. So that concludes the conversation. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we go?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. So we actually did find that the image that I was referring to was a Yelinsky. That it is, what's the name of the painting? How it's pronounced. But that's the image. I'll take a picture of that. This is the one that Luna did such a great job giving her own spin on.
Yeah.
And I just really love it. That's the one I thought was a Matisse. But we did find it. All right, so we are now with the whole family, and we have Tom and Heather, and Luna's a little, would you call those dusty rose pom-poms? Would you call that like a dusty rose? Okay.
Yes, I would.
All right, so Heather and I have known each other for a while. We'll just put it that way. We met when we were both teenagers. Her and her family were coming through the great state of Iowa, and stopped off for a while in my hometown, and we became friends. And when I moved out here, we reconnected, and she had been married to Tom, and I've watched Luna grow over the last few years. Heather, I know, because I know your past, that like me, you have a very unusual history. I'm not going to ask you to go into the details, but the thing that I find fascinating, and this is what I'm really interested in, is how an unusual upbringing, as long as it's healthy, it helps to shape a young mind. So can you talk about your upbringing and how that led to the way you decided to raise your child?
Well, it's hard to encapsulate that without having a dissertation, but there was a lot of control in my childhood and strict rules, sort of an oppressive atmosphere at many times. And I felt when I was preparing to become a parent that it was more nurturing to have an accepting environment, an environment of free expression, a free environment that can allow you to blossom and grow without feeling, constrained by, meaningless rules and constrictures. So I definitely wanted to have a
more affirming environment.
yes.
That's great. That's going to lead to one of the most elemental questions of this conversation. But how did having an unusual, because you did a lot of hopping around without getting into detail.
Yeah, a lot
Your
of moving.
family did a lot of moving, and that if I may, you had a resiliency about you, and an awareness, even at the age you were when I met you, that it seemed like you felt very assured of who you were, and while these things may have challenged some of your social connections, it almost seemed to push you further in the direction of becoming who you were faster. Was that?
Oh yeah, certainly. I was homeschooled, sort of, loosely. I had a lot of time on my hands as a teenager, and I was able to pursue my own creativity, which at that time was I loved having a pen pal newsletter that I published, and I was interested in graphic arts and journalism. But there was such a lack of stability in my childhood and teenagerhood, and a lot of moving around, as you said. And although traveling is great for the soul, I think for a child it can be really beneficial to have stability. Mm-hmm. Certainly, there are those families who can travel and have stability. They're not, they don't negate each other. But it was certainly important to me that she grew up around her grandparents, because I didn't get to experience that with any kind of regularity. And that's intergenerational communication and nurturing is so good for the heart and soul of a developing person. And all of those things nurture creativity.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, one of the... one of the key things, the key themes is the power of creativity in with regards to helping a person not only express who they are, but offer back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, I don't know a whole lot about your past.
It's mysterious.
Yeah. I mean, you're just kind of the quiet guy in the Blue Oyster Cult t-shirt. But, well... I think the thing I'm trying to get to is I don't have children of my own, and I look vicariously into the short windows that I get into other people's lives. And raising a child, this seems to be a very deliberate act. The way you guys are going about raising Luna, and it's the absolute, like I said earlier, boundless expression and the constant affirmation that she can, that she just keeps expressing and expressing and expressing. How does that compare to maybe the way you saw the world when you were growing up?
I get a big. I draw a lot of inspiration from Luna and the amount of creativity that she has and her ability to express herself, and I think her art is wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's just a pleasure to see her over there painting or drawing or learning about it, trying new things. So I don't relate it much to my worldview at her age, but we had different interests. So at her age, I wasn't in painting or anything.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. It does. So here's a question for the both of you. How important do you feel an environment is to raising a well-adjusted individual?
Oh, geez, 100%.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Very. And from birth, really.
Right.
You treat even a baby with respect. That's certainly one of the core foundations of our parenting. And not overscheduling. That's a huge principle that I believe in, and it's so it's almost just accepted as normalcy in our society now that you have your child in many activities, and even as a baby there are baby activities that you can take a baby to, and babies are never bored. Babies are just experiencing the world for the first time and enjoying it, and everything is an experience and a novelty. So you don't have to take a baby to a baby exercise class for them because they're bored, because babies don't get bored.
Right.
And I think that's an interesting problem in our society as far as parenting and raising infants in particular. I think a quiet, stable home environment is very important, and letting the child have as much time and as when they're a toddler and just beginning to be mobile and active and exploring, just letting that toddler have as much time to explore peacefully in a safe environment is so valuable. Also, exposing them to different tools at a young age is valuable, art tools. But what I think is important is not to teach a child art at a young age, but rather to let them experiment with the tools, provide them the space and the time, but don't coach them or teach them. There's plenty of time for that when they get to be a teenager, or even, at her age, she can begin to, if she wants to take art classes. But I think self-exploration is of the utmost importance without intensive guidance or lessons.
And you know what? That is probably the nugget of this conversation, because that's the thing that I love about her work. That is, all the academic stuff aside, yes, that teaches you the fundamentals about how to communicate well. But if you have this kind of natural upbringing, this, as you put it, safe exploration space, this is what made me ask as I was writing these questions, the constant visual stimuli that is not bound by one geographic region. I mean, I see stuff all over, from influences from all over the world in this house. I mean, every time I come in here, you guys are listening to jazz, and it's like, that's the way a lot of people wish they would have been able to grow up. And so that little window, those little short windows of time where I get to view how other people do this whole parenting thing, because I'm not a parent. It seems to be such a deliberate thing on your behalf that was set from a very early age, and I'm so glad you answered that question the way you did, because that's precisely what I intuited, but we never talked about. So let me get on to, here's one of the really important questions, and this may be the transferable beyond this space. Do you believe that her creativity makes her a more empathic person?
That's an interesting question.
Or was it creativity came first or empathy came first?
I think, empathy and creativity are sort of mutually evolving traits that you have to consciously nurture. I don't necessarily think that you can just be born empathic and maintain that. I think that it's something, to trust your empathic nature is something that should be nurtured, and gaining trust in one's empathic nature, or one's internal voice, whatever you want to call it, is something that is cultivated. I think that we have the space for it, and she is doing that, and she is all of her teachers have always said she's very compassionate.
Yeah.
And she is.
Well, that's fantastic, because that's one of the things that I'm in this process of trying to riddle it out myself. Is it a chicken or an egg type of thing, or is it simultaneous development? And I mean, I know a lot of these things where, for example, one of my friends is a retired engineer, and he, like a lot of people in retirement, has started to pick up paint and go to the easel. And he has a hard time getting into the space where he trusts his intuition, and because it's a scary thing for a lot of people. And it's clearly still there, but it's also clearly a muscle that has not been developed. And that's one of those things. It's like, we're not just born great at things, we develop them.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes work. And that's what academics is for, is, okay, here's something you really love to do, whether it's dance or engineering or computer science or being a medical physician. But you have the base structure for it. Now let's make it better. And I think that's the role. And what you did, what you stated so eloquently was, you said, there will be a time for that.
Mm-hmm.
This is a time for another thing. And that to me is what I've always appreciated and admired ever since I started to get to know your family again. So that pretty much takes care of where I wanted to go with this conversation. I really appreciate your time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All three of you.
Yeah, thanks, Harold.
Yeah. For watching. Stay tuned for the next artist conversation. It's an ongoing project. I've got a couple more people lined up. I'm not going to give those people away yet. Some interesting characters that I've met along the way. So until next time, be well, be good to each other, be prosperous.